Okay, hello everybody. So today we are continuing on with systems of equations, but we are not going to do graphing today. Today we're going to solve a system by substitution. Now our answers are still going to be ordered pairs, x and y's, or no solutions, or all real numbers, like that type of thing. But you're going to need paper and pencil out today, and definitely a calculator. Okay, so this says we have solved systems by graphing, but it's not always the easiest because we have to graph or accurate. What happens if the lines don't cross at a nice point? Then you're just guessing. And what if the lines cross at a point with large numbers that's off our grid paper, like -25 or bigger, something, comma, -232 or something like that, okay? So substitution is often an easy way, and when we don't have the nicest of numbers to graph and things like that as well. Okay, so again, it's called substitution. You use substitution like if I give you an equation, something like if I say 3x plus 4, what is the solution of 3x plus 4 if I substitute a 3 or a 6 in for x? So I just plug it in. We're kind of doing the same thing here. We're still substituting in. You've done this before. Now, it says in substitution, you will need one of the variables by itself. So usually we get y equals, or for today, we can also have x equals. It doesn't matter, but you can't have two y equals or -3x equals. You need to get one of them by themselves first before we can even think about getting substitution. Sometimes they're both by themselves. That's great, but you need at least one. Okay, so write these steps down right now. Pause the video and write them down. Okay, so step one, solve for one variable. Sometimes I will give you one variable already solved for. That step is done. Step two, substitute that equation into the other equation, because remember, we're always going to have two equations. Step three, solve for the variable that is left. So when we substitute in, we will only end up with x's or y's. So get like x equals a number or y equals number. Sorry about that. And then substitute that x, if x equals 6, plug it in or substitute it in to solve for y and get your ordered pair. And always check to make sure it works. Okay, so let's do this. So here's the steps. First of all, it says solve for one variable. Look, y is already by itself. So I don't need to get one of the, I don't need to get a variable by itself because conveniently for today, right now, this problem, y is already by itself. Now it says step two, substitute into the other equation. So here's what I like to do. Put this in parentheses. That's what y equals. And see where that is? Instead of y, I'm going to put what's in parentheses. So the 2x is still 2x. But now, y is not y. Y is x plus 1. And then equals -2 stays. So that stayed and that stayed, okay? Now, if at this step you end up with another equation and your equation still has x's and y's in it, you accidentally plugged it into the wrong variable. Okay, so I substituted into the other equation. Now, solve for that one. So now, here I am at step 3, I'm solving for x. So if I have 2x plus 1x plus 1 equals -2, I'm going to combine my like terms, and now I'm just getting x equaling a number. 3x plus 1 equals -2, minus 1 to both sides by showing all my wonderful work. 3x equals -3. Now you see why you might need your calculator. And do you see here, x equals -1? That is step 3, solve for the variable. Okay, so here's half of my answer. Okay, step 3. Step 4, now I'm going to substitute to find the first variable. So back to either one of these equations, you can use either one. I'm going to use the top one because it just seems a little easier. Okay, so I'm going to take this top equation, which is y equals x plus 1, the way it is. But now I'm going to plug in a -1 for x because that's what x equals. Okay, so I'm going to have y equals -1 plus 1. Okay, and I'm going to do the work, so y equals 0. Okay, substitute to find the first variable or the other one, check. Now, this isn't a step, but technically, now I have an x and I have a y. My answer is still an ordered pair. This is my answer, and remember that's an x and a y. Okay, so that's like where the two lines would cross on a graph, and then I want to just substitute x in and y in to my two equations up on top. So when x is -1, y is 0. When x is -1 and y is 0, does it still equal -2? Yes, I checked my answer, but my solution is still an ordered pair. Okay? Okay, so hopefully you're writing some of these down. Okay, let's see. Solve by substitution. Now look in the equations. Are either one, is y by itself? Yes, y is by itself. So I'm going to put that in parentheses, okay? And I'm going to put that in for y here, not 2y, just y, okay? Okay, so now I'm going to rewrite my equation. And instead of y, I'm going to write 5 minus x. Okay, so I have 2x plus 2 parentheses 5 minus x, because that's just y, equals 10. Okay, now I'm going to solve for my variable. And since there's just x's, I'm good to go. So distribute. Okay, combine like terms. Oops. I put plus 10, not instead of equals 10. So 10 minus 2x equals 10. Okay, now what do you notice? What is 2x minus 2x? These actually cancel. So we end up with 10 equals 10. What happens when I have 10 equals 10? Ooh, remember that? That's an all real numbers, but all numbers on the line. Same as yesterday, all numbers on the line. Okay? I know that was a tricky one. Okay, so if we ended something like that, if we would end up with 0 equals 10, no, that's a no solution. Those would be parallel. Okay, this one, are either one x or y by themselves a variable? Yes. Do you see x is by itself? So I'm going to put that in parentheses and put it in there. Okay, so now I have 2 times x, but x is -2y minus 1. Now I need the rest of this equation, because I'm going down here, minus y equals 3. Okay, so I took this part and put it into the other equation, only where x is. The rest of it still comes along. Okay, now I'm going to distribute. Now let's see, maybe it's another special one, maybe it's not. And I'm going to put a 1 here so I don't forget about that y. Okay, so now I have a -4y plus a -1y. That gives me -5y. And there's still that -2 equals 3. Okay, I'm going to add 2 to both sides. -5y equals 5. And last, divide by -5. And do you see y equals -1? So that's part of my answer. So now I pick either one of these equations, and I'm going to erase them so you can kind of see. And usually I pick the equation that has a variable by itself, like this one. So I'm going to put that in place of y. So I'll do that over here. So x equals -2 times y, which is -1 minus 1. -2 times -1 is 2. 2 minus 1 is just 1. So x equals 1, y equals -1. My answer is the ordered pair x, y. That's my final solution because they equal actual numbers. Sometimes they might be not nice numbers, but that's okay. Okay, let's keep going. Ooh, this is a fun one. Now look, is x or y by itself? Do you see x is by itself and x equals y? So in place of y, in place of x, see, it's easy to do. Instead of x, I'm going to put y in parentheses. So y, and now the rest of this keeps going. -3y equals -1. So again, if I put it in the wrong place, I would still have x's and y's. I don't want x's and y's. I want just y's. Keep change means I have 1y plus a -3y equals -1. So that gives me -2y equals -1. And when I divide by -2, I get a positive 1/2. Again, this wouldn't have been a good one to graph, so that's why we're kind of doing this. Okay, so y is 1/2. I'm going to use which equation? Well, I'm going to use the second equation because x equals y. And if y is 1/2, that's the same as x. Ooh, that's almost too easy. So my final answer is the ordered pair 1/2, 1/2, because x and y are in fact the same. Think about that. We like those kind. Those are almost the easy kind. Okay, let's do another one. Now look here. Look at either equation. Is x by itself or y? Well, y is by itself. So I put that in parentheses, and I put it in for y in parentheses. And remember, the rest of it goes along. So that x minus 2 is still there. But the only thing in parentheses is the y, which is now x plus 1 equals -3. Okay, so now I have to distribute, and remember I'm distributing a negative. And note, this x is really a 1x. I just like to do that to remind myself. And now -2x plus a -2 when I distribute. Okay, combine like terms gives me a -1x plus a -2, equals -3. I'm going to add 2, and I get -1x equals -1. And now I'm just showing all my good work, and it ends up actually a really nice number, just 1. So x equals 1. So now think about this equation here up top. If x equals 1, I'm really doing is writing a 1 where that is. So y equals 1 plus 1, because it's x plus 1, which is 2. But my final answer, again, is the ordered pair x, which is 1, y, which is 2, just like if you were to graph them. Okay? Okay, I think we've done enough probably today. Here's what I'm going to have you do. Take out your worksheet, do the worksheet and check it with the key. Make sure you have your paper and pencil out. You're going to need that. Okay, I'm going to do it one more in case you want to see one more. But if you feel good, go on to the homework. If you don't feel good, let's do one more, okay? Okay. Have a great day. After the next one, if you want to just go ahead and give it a try. Okay, for those of you still on, we're just going to do one more. Again, this time it's x that's by itself. So I'm going to put all of that in for x. So the 2 is still there. The 3y plus 5 is now in place of that x, and the rest gets written out. Distribute 6y plus 10 plus a y, but I'm going to put a 1 there just so I don't forget. So when I add my y's together, I get 7y plus 10 equals 3. Okay, now I'm going to minus 10. 7y equals negative 7. Dividing by positive 7 gives me y equals a negative 1. Okay, and then again, I go to the top. I usually pick the one that has the variable by itself, which is this one. And I put a y in where I see a negative 1 in where I see y. So the x is still there, the 3 is still there, but now it's not a y, it's a negative 1 plus 5. So x equals negative 3 plus 5. So x equals 2, which means my final answer is the ordered pair x, comma, y. Okay, hopefully you got it now. Let me know if you're having problems. Have a good day. Try the homework and the formative. Let me know, though, if you're having problems.